episode number 122 of the Wholesome Fertility Podcast. Welcome to the Wholesome Fertility Podcast. I'm Michelle, a fertility acupuncturist here to provide you with resources on how to create a wholesome approach to your fertility journey. I am absolutely thrilled to bring you my next guest today. Bruce Lipton is a cell biologist and lecturer. He's an internationally recognized leader in bridging science and spirit, which is amazing. I love when spirit and science meet, and Bruce is at the center of this. He was on the faculty of the University of Wisconsin School of Medicine and later performed groundbreaking stem cell research at Stanford University. He is the best-selling author of The Biology of Belief, The Honeymoon Effect, and co-authored Spontaneous Evolution with Steve Bhaerman. Bruce received the 2009 prestigious Goi Peace Award from Japan in honor of his scientific contribution to world harmony. Welcome to the podcast, Bruce.
I am so happy to be here with you, Michelle. We have some wonderful things for that audience out there, the wonderful people out there, the cultural creatives looking for answers that are not generally in the box. This is a place right now for today, for sure.
Yay, I love it. I'm so excited. So you have such an amazing background, and I would love for you to share your background and how you learned and the wisdom that you learned from cells.
Okay, from cells that's a good start because I was a cell biologist. I was teaching in school the concept of what is called genetic determinism. That's the belief that almost everybody still has, that genes determine the character of their life. So, the idea of a cancer gene or something like that's like freak everybody out. And I say, well, why does it freak people out? And the answer is simply this, is that if genes control your life, then think about this. As far as we know, you didn't pick the genes you came with. And if you don't like the genes that you have, you can't change them. And then add on top, you're told that the genes turn on and off by themselves. And I said, what is the result of that consciousness? And the answer is, I'm a victim of my heredity. Mm-hmm. So whatever's running my family, it's genetic. It's not me, it's my genes. So victimization means powerless. I'm powerless over my life, which then you seek the healer, because they're going to provide power. So you give up your healing power, your life, to words of the professional that you bought. Okay. And I say, so all of this, I says, what is disempowering? The basic thing is I'm a victim. That means just by definition, I'm disempowered. And I go, okay, that's what I was teaching. Conventional medical school stuff at the time, genetic determinism. But I was cloning stem cells back then. That was over 50 years ago. So that was back then. The dinosaurs and me were cloning stem cells. And I say, what's a stem cell? It's an embryonic cell that's in your body. And I say, the first thing you have to understand is this: when you look in the mirror, see yourself as a single entity. That is an illusion, because we're made out of 50 trillion cells. We're community. Mm-hmm. All your cells are working in harmony with each other. A cell is a sentient being. I can take a cell out of your body, put it in a petri dish. It doesn't need to live in you. It could live in a petri dish, okay? Mm-hmm. And so I say you have 50 trillion citizens, okay? And the significance about that is it's the consciousness of the leader of the community, you, that influences the outcome. I say, how do I know that? And now I'll give you the story. And that was 50 years ago, cloning stem cells, which are embryonic cells. And they're there because you're made out of 50 trillion cells. And every minute you're losing millions of cells. I mean, just since we've started, you've already lost 5-6 million cells already. And I say, well, geez, if you don't replace those cells, then you die right away. At some point, you're just losing cells, hundreds of billions every day. And I go, there are stem cells in your body, and stem cells are embryonic cells. and they replace the ones you die. So you stay the same. You lose hundreds of billions, you make hundreds of billions, because stem cells, okay? So they're embryonic cells. They have multi-potential. They can become anything: skin, bone, muscle, blood. They're replacing, okay? So they're embryonic cells, and they are. And I'm growing them in a petri dish, but I'm cloning them. This is back in 1967. And cloning means you just put one cell in a dish by itself, but it divides every 10 hours. So first there's one, then there's two, then they divide, then there's 4 and 8 and 16, blah, blah, blah. After 1 week, I have 30,000 cells in the petri dish. And I go, yeah. And I say, they're all embryonic cells. I say, yeah. They're all genetically identical because they came from one parent. So 30,000 genetically identical cells. And I split them up into 3 petri dishes. So each dish, all the dishes had genetically identical cells. And the point is coming soon. So here it comes. The point is, cells grow in culture medium. That's an environment. I say, well, yeah, but what does it represent? I say, laboratory version of blood. You see, if I grow human cells, what is human blood made out of? I make a synthetic version called culture medium, grow the cells in the culture medium. So it's a version of blood. I go, okay. And then I say, so what? And I say, but I make it in the lab. So in this particular experiment, I slightly changed the chemistry of the culture medium with 3 different versions, 3 different environments. And I go, so why is it relevant? Well, same genetically identical cells, but the environment was slightly different in each. And I say, so what happened? I said, well, in one dish, the cells form muscle. In the other dish, they form bone. In the third dish, they form fat cells. And I go, wait a minute. They became muscle, bone, fat. I said, what controlled that? You say, well, the genes. I go, no, they all had the same genes. The genes did not make that decision. I say, what made the decision? I said, the environment in which the cells were in determined the outcome of those cells. And all of a sudden I said, well, the genes are blueprints, but the environment is the architect. Right. So the environment is shaping the character of the cells. So I say, well, that's great. Culture medium, plastic dish. Then I go, wait, I just said, you're 50 trillion cells. You're a skin-covered petri dish. Under your skin, 50 trillion cells. And the original growth medium, blood. And I say, so what? And here comes the point. It doesn't make a difference if the cell is in the skin-covered dish or in a plastic dish. The genetics of the cell are controlled by the environment, the culture medium, or the original blood, the original culture medium. So I say, so why is it relevant? The idea that genes control your fate is completely false. Your environment controls your fate. And the blood is an expression of your environment. Meaning this, if you change how you respond to the world, you change the composition of your blood. And the blood is the controller of the behavior and the genetics. So I say, so what does that mean? So I say, well, let's say your eyes are closed and you open them up and you see someone you love. I go, oh, I say, what happens? The brain translates love into chemistry. Dopamine for pleasure, oxytocin, bonding, vasopressin makes you more attractive. Growth hormone does what it says. It enhances your vitality. So when you fall in love, the brain releases chemicals into the culture medium, blood. And it's the composition of the blood that determines the genetics and the fate. And that's why when people fall in love, the chemistry of love is vital. It enhances life. People fall in love and they glow. They glow because chemistry of the culture medium is supporting vitality. Now I say, wait, the same person opens their eyes and sees something that scares them. Dopamine, oxytocin, growth hormone, you don't release that stuff. You release stress hormones. Oh, that's a different chemical composition. I go, stress hormones and factors that affect your immune system are released in fear. So all of a sudden I say, oh, well, then the blood, culture medium, chemistry is controlling the cells, but the chemistry of the blood is controlled by the mind. And I say, so why is this relevant? Well, for many reasons. Number one, the original belief, genetic determinism, that genes control your life, genes turn on and off, is completely false, 100%. You're not controlled by genes. No. Genes are blueprints, just like in an architect's office. You go into an architect office and she's working on a blueprint. You lean over her shoulder and you ask her, you say, is your blueprint on or off? And she's looking, what are you talking about? It's a blueprint. It's not on and off. I go, DNA is a blueprint to make a protein. Proteins are the building blocks, blueprints. I go, so why is it relevant? I say, they don't turn on and off. They're controlled. By what? The environment. I said, what's the environment? Well, for your cells, the blood. I said, yeah, but the chemistry of that is controlled by what? The picture in your mind. And I go, why is that relevant? Your consciousness is shaping your biology and your behavior and your genetics. And that disease is, everyone thinks it's caused by genes. Less than 1% of disease is connected to genes. Less than 1%. 90% of illness is stress. I say, why is that relevant? Because I don't control my genes, but I sure as heck have the opportunity to control my stress. So if I can control my stress, then in the end, I control my vitality, my health, my longevity, my joy, or whatever it is. Why? Because my brain is going to convert my visions into chemistry that match the vision. And that's opportunity. I can have a scary vision, like a lot of people wake up in the world go, ah, or you could wake up in the world go, hey, it's another beautiful day here. And I say, well, the chemistry of those two things, 100% different. But the chemistry is translated into behavior and genetics. And all of a sudden it says, it is your consciousness that is controlling your biology, your beliefs, because they could be, a belief could be true, but a belief could also be false. But the cells, they just know what the belief is. So you say, I'm afraid, and yet there was no reason to be afraid. There's no reason out here, but you believe it. The cells inside, they didn't see out here. They saw what you saw, your belief to be afraid. And all of a sudden I say, oh my God, then our life is being controlled by these visions in our mind. And then all of a sudden, you start to recognize, well, something important about that. And I go, what? And I say, well, the brain is a computer. It's an information processor. Yeah, it takes the environmental information and interprets it and then sends chemistry into the body from reading what's going on. But then I say there's two parts to the mind. And I go, well, what are the two parts? I say, well, the mind, everyone thinks it's just one part. I say, the mind is controlling. And you go, oh, the mind, like one thing. I go, no, the mind is two things. And if you don't get this right, then the whole world doesn't make sense. The mind is the conscious mind, the creative mind, the one connected to your spirituality, your identity. Conscious mind, by definition, is creative. It has imagination. You could think of anything and then you can manifest. That's how it works, okay? The subconscious mind is like the hard drive in a computer. That's where the programs are. You want to do a spreadsheet, you get something like Excel or Word to write a composition or something. I say, you have to have program before you can use the creativity. And I say, subconscious is program. So what? I say, well, when you go to the computer store, you buy a brand new computer, you take it home, you start it up, it starts up, okay? And I go, then what? I say, well, now do something. And you say, well, first I have to open up a program. I say, well, what if there's no program in there? And I say, then the computer is useless. It booted up, but now it doesn't do anything. It's ready, but it has no program. So first you put programs in. And once the programs are in, then you can interface the program, okay? So the subconscious is where the programs are. The conscious is the interface. So I can get a program and I can operate it, okay? But many programs, they can operate with automatically, just push start and the program runs by itself. You don't have to do anything, okay? I go, and here's the point. The subconscious is the equivalent of that hard drive with programs. And you could start a program, it could run by itself, or you can start a program and engage it with typing on the keyboard. That's the input going in. Conscious is input. Subconscious is program, okay? So I say, why is it relevant? Well, when the conscious mind's got its hands on the keyboard and it's putting in data, it's controlling the machine. if you get up from the machine because you have to go get a cup of coffee and the machine is running a program, it's running without you. I go, oh, so the machine can run by itself if I'm not paying attention. I go, that's the whole issue in that one thing. I say, why? When I'm using my conscious mind and I'm interacting on the keyboard, I'm in control of this vehicle. But when I get up and it goes to autopilot, subconscious is autopilot, and it's got programs in it. I go, yeah. Now comes a couple little points. One, where the hell did you get the programs? Because the brain was like the computer. It first had to boot up, then it had to have programs. I said, where did the programs come from? The first 7 years of your life, your brain is not operating at the conscious level. It's operating at the program level. It's making programs. I say, well, how does it make a program? It watches. It watches the mother, it watches the father, it watches the community. And just by watching, it's like a video recorder. See that behavior? That's the behavior that a dad does. You see that behavior? That's the behavior a mom does. This is the behavior the public does. I say, oh, so I'm learning what? By observing the things around me. And I go, this is really cool because this facilitates a child doesn't have to read a book or go to school. It just has to watch. And that's the first 7 years of a child's life. And I go, oh, I say, what's happening? The conscious brain's not really working that much. It's the subconscious. I say for 7 years, the subconscious is in a state called theta, which is an electronic vibration. When you put wires on a person's head, electroencephalograph, theta is a vibration. It's below consciousness. It actually mixes real world and imaginary world, theta. And that's how children play games like drink some tea, empty pot, pour empty into the cup, drink the empty and talk about how good the tea was. That's theta, imagination and reality, okay? A child's brain is in that for 7 years, but that's also hypnosis. So I said, well, how do I get a program? I watched and I downloaded. So if you watch someone, a parent, and they have a bad program, then you download it too.
Right.
And already there.
We blame that on, and then we blame it on genetics.
But well, that's what we do because it's transmitted the same way. It goes from family, from parent to child.
Right.
But one is physical genes that were blueprints to make this body, but the other one is programming of the body.
Right.
Okay, so the genes can do an automatic job of programming my physical body, but how do I use this body? That needs a program. And that's what I download in the first 7 years. And in fact, the Jesuits from the Catholic group, they've had a saying for 400 years, famous. It says, give me a child until it is 7 and I will show you the man. And I said, what the heck does that mean? I said, absolute science. The child for the first 7 years is downloading behavior. Where from? Parents, siblings, community. Okay, to conform. I would be a part of them. I need to know how they do it. I just recorded it, that's all. And then when the conscious mind comes in, it can operate the program. But, put a B-U-T, but. The conscious mind can not only drive the vehicle, but the conscious mind can think. So I say, Michelle, tell me what you're doing on Saturday. And it might not be written anywhere in front of you, but in a moment, you're going to go in your head. You're going to think, oh, Saturday, what am I doing on Saturday? And I go, that was the most important moment teaching. And I say, why? Because until then, you and I are having direct conscious contact with each other. But then the moment I asked you to think, your consciousness went inside because the answers are inside. Thinking is inside. It's not written out here what you're doing on Sunday. It's written in there. Ha! So you redirected consciousness. I'm not looking out. No, I'm looking in. Say, yeah, but what if you're driving the car? And then you're thinking and going, you're not looking out. You're looking in. Thinking shuts off consciousness. It takes it's going in. It's not paying attention to the world anymore. So I say, well, okay, that's scary. But I go, hey, 95% of the day is the amount of time we spend thinking. I go, so 95, that's science. I go, yeah. I say, why is it relevant? 95% of the day, which part of your mind is controlling your life? When the conscious mind is controlling, I got my hands on the wheel. I'm driving toward wishes and desires, conscious imagination. What do you want? Yeah, I'm driving toward what I want. But I say, then all of a sudden you say, what am I doing on Sunday? And I have to go inside and go thinking. Now I'm thinking, yeah, but my eyes are closed. I'm thinking. I don't need to see. It's inside. So I go, so what happens? The moment you are thinking, conscious mind lets go of the wheel. I go, then who's driving? Subconscious is autopilot. It knows how to do everything you know how to do because it's programmed. You learned how to walk. You don't have to think about it. You can ride a bike. You don't have to think about it. You can drive the car. You don't have to think about it. It's automatic. So then the conclusion that comes down critical here, Michelle, is that when we are before 7 up to 7, the conscious mind's not working, but the mind is like a video recorder with a subconscious. Whatever it observes, it's just downloading. Whatever it hears, it's just downloading. I say those are programs. After age 7, I get to create with my program. But if I'm thinking, I let go of the creation because I'm inside now. I'm not creating out here. I'm creating in here. I go. So I say then 95% of my life is not coming from my wishes and desires. No, it's coming from the program. Yeah, but where'd you get the program? From somebody else. So am I living my life? I say, no, you're replaying. And the old story that I've been telling for years is like, you have a friend, you know your friend's behavior very, very well, and you know your friend's parent. And one day you see your friend has the exact same behavior as their parent. So you go, hey, Bill, you're just like your dad. Then you back away from Bill. Because the first thing Bill's going to do, how can you compare me to my dad? I'm nothing like my dad. And everyone has some experience about that. That's why I use a story, because that is the most profound thing, is that right there. And I said, what does it mean? Everybody else can see that Bill behaves like his dad. Bill doesn't see it. How come Bill can have that behavior and not see it? And the answer is because 95% of the day, Bill is thinking. And the program that is coming out is his dad's. That's what he downloaded. Then why doesn't he see it? I said, because he's not looking out. Thinking is looking in. So whatever behavior is playing automatically, Bill doesn't see it, but everybody else does. And now comes the, okay, folks, you got that little story there, and we laugh at Bill. And we all Bill. Every one of us is doing exactly what Bill does. We're living our life 5% of the time paying attention to what's going on, and 95% of the time we're in thought. And our life is now being controlled by a program, which we got from other people, and we don't even see it when we're playing it. And I say, and what is the result, collective general consequence of this whole thing without any knowledge at all about it? A person walks away with the fact that when I got up this morning, today I was going to be successful. And then I went out all day, and when I came home at night, I wasn't successful. I go, and what does that person think about that night now they came home? And they go, well, I wanted to be successful, so the problem is out there. Those people are preventing me from being successful. That stopped me from being successful. I'm a victim. And I go, no, Bill, all day long, you were shooting yourself in the foot, and you don't even know you got the gun in your hand, because all day long, the behavior you were putting out was not observed by you, and it was somebody else's program, and you were playing it, and it didn't support your destination. You didn't see, just like Bill, the behavior you were putting out was preventing you from experiencing what you wanted. not the outside interfering with what you wanted. And then all of a sudden I go, well, if you understand this, all of a sudden it says, well, if I stop thinking, if I just stop thinking and I stay conscious, I can control the vehicle. I go, yes. I go, and most people, the past teenage years, have experienced the thing that I give as an example. I talk about love, and just a preamble here before, when I talk about love, love doesn't have to be between people.
Mm-hmm.
Love could be between a person and a pet. Love could be between a person and being a chef
Mm-hmm.
or being a gardener or painting a picture. You know,
Mm-hmm.
love is engaging in that part. Okay, so I go, then the significance then is um, being in love stops you from thinking. I go, what do you mean? I go, every day, 95% of the day, thoughts, what am I doing today? What am I doing tomorrow? Who did this to what? What do I need to buy? What do I need to fix? Thoughts, 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 thoughts. Okay. But the moment you fall in love, for a minute, you're not thinking. Not for a
Mm-hmm.
minute, for a period. I go, why aren't you thinking? Because it's so cool to be here now
Mm-hmm.
rather than to disconnect and go into my head. So it's called being mindful. I say, what does that mean? When you fall in love, you stop thinking and you say, oh, this is so great. This is so great. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. I goes, oh, wait, you stop thinking. I said, what does that mean? I said, you stop playing the program that you got. I said, then who's controlling? I go, conscious mind still got its hands on the wheel because it's not thinking. And conscious mind is driving you to wishes and desire like a honeymoon. And all of a sudden I say your life could suck, blah, 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 blah. You fall in love. 24 hours later, it's like, wow, I love this life. I'm so happy. I go, it was miserable every day. And then 24 hours later, it's like heaven on earth. I go, point. You stop playing the program and you started to create consciously. And I say, conscious mind, wishes and desires. So if you're going to use it, what do you think you're manifesting? Wishes and desires. It's called the honeymoon. And I go, that's not an accident. You could have that every day. I go, yeah, but honeymoons come and then they seem to go. I go, why? Well, for a period of time, you could stay mindful, keep your mind in the present moment, stop thinking. But you have a job, you have responsibilities, you got to pay some bills, you got to fix the car. And all of a sudden I say, oh, once those start coming in, you start thinking, oh, I got to fix the car.
Mm-hmm.
I go, oh, yeah, but now that you start thinking, the behavior that's coming out of you, like Bill, well, it's not yours anymore. Now it's the program. I go, yeah, but if most of those, which they are disempowering or sabotaging programs, then it says what? You were in a honeymoon. Why? You were just creating with conscious wishes and desires. And then there's a point where thinking comes in, and all of a sudden, now your outer creation is coming not from conscious mind. It's now coming from the program that you got from other people. I go, why is that relevant? If you download a negative program, you are broadcasting a negative program while you are thinking about paying the bills. I go, ooh, you didn't play programs when you first got together in your relationship. Those were two people operating from what? Conscious creative wishes and desires. Two people creating with wishes and desires manifest honeymoon. But when one and then both start to begin thinking and stop being present for that moment, they start all of a sudden to behave in programs. Programs aren't supportive, then guess what does that mean? That they're Bill, we're Bill. We're playing negative programs, sabotaging ourselves, don't seeing it. And that throws a monkey wrench into the honeymoon because the honeymoon didn't have programs. The
Mm-hmm.
honeymoon was live control. And then you say, so what does all this mean? I say, well, about fertility, it means a hell of a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we talk about fertility, and you think about the ovum, one of the biggest eggs in the body, or the one that has the most mitochondria, and how our bodies impact our cells. And that's my mind goes there.
Well, I just said the fate of a cell is controlled by the chemistry and the culture medium.
Yeah.
If the chemistry is fear, it doesn't support growth at all. Matter of fact, it shuts off growth.
Right.
I go, so why is that relevant? Well, let's say I want to get pregnant. Yeah, so I want my cells to be activated and I want them to grow. But if I'm living in fear that I don't think I can support this child, I don't think I could carry out this process of bringing this child in and taking it to where I need to go. And nature says, if you're not ready, it's not ready.
Mm-hmm.
And the chemistry of your consciousness will influence your ability to conceive. Okay. And what's real interesting is that people have trouble conceiving because they have all these issues, but then somehow or other they say, let's adopt a child.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, then what happens? I say, well, now that they adopted a child and it's working, all of a sudden that fear of not having a child is like, I could do this.
Mm-hmm.
And then guess what? They get pregnant.
Right.
And I said, well, what was the difference? And the answer was, before there was some fear of not being able to carry it out, whatever financial, familial, I don't care what it is. And that fear is inhibitory toward allowing a pregnancy to occur, because the system is saying, I can't support this. I'm not going to invest the development of an entire child if I can't support this child. So nature says, oh, not yet. And so the majority of these fertility problems it's not physically wrong. It's just sort of like in disease. I say, how much of disease is due to the genetics of the machine that is not working right? I go, less than 1%.
Mm-hmm.
90% of disease is because of stress. Huh. But stress is controllable. But if you don't have any understanding of control, you find yourself a victim, powerless, controlled by my cancer gene. I go, first of all, there is no cancer gene. No, there's not one gene. If you have this gene, you have cancer. And I go, this is particularly important because women have the fear of the breast cancer,
gene.
the RCA gene. And they have a fear that, so, somebody that's like Angelina Jolie's grandmother died. And with that fear, she said, I'm going to remove these breasts. She was young and healthy and wholesome and everything. And then she has double mastectomy with the idea, well, if they're not there, I'm not going to die. And I go, that's not a good belief system for a couple of reasons. One is that gene is present in other organs of the body, such as the ovaries. You got to take those out too, and the uterus. You got to do all that. If you're thinking of that, I go, or recognize a simple fact. 50% of the women with the gene never get the cancer. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, what does that mean? Possession of the gene itself does not cause cancer. Why? Because people possess the gene, never get the cancer. Mm-hmm. So it's like, oh, the gene doesn't automatically. No, cancer is a stress issue again. And that's when people have a remission of a cancer, spontaneous remission. How'd they do that? They change consciousness. And all of a sudden it says, yeah, but you didn't realize it was the consciousness that created the cancer, and it's a change in consciousness that can eliminate the cancer. And I said, well, why is all this relevant? Because it comes down to consciousness is controlling at every level, whether it's a cancer or whether it's a pregnancy. Same story. That's what it's all about. Your power or lack of.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty amazing. I mean, so many thoughts came to my mind as you were talking about. One of them being that love is so life-giving. Like, love gives life. It breathes life. If you think about, you're talking about loving, an artist with a canvas, when they're in that mode of love, or an athlete, and they get into this state of flow and perfect alignment in their life, everything kind of falls into place as the universe feels, and moves through them. And with baby making, it's all about love. And then when you get to the fertility journey and you're dealing with, first of all, doctors that are telling you you are so-and-so or this or that, and you're given a label, so you start to believe that label, and then that consciousness kind of takes over, and then you're in the script of that. And 100%. Then that total is like a love killer, because then people can't even be intimate with each other without it being mechanical. So that it's so mechanical and there's no love infused in that. And so, I mean, it's just kind of like this vicious cycle.
It is a vicious cycle. It's a consciousness repeating itself cycle until you break that. You're caught in it. That's why, for example, when they finally go out and adopt a child that, they were not able to have their own, but they broke it. They have a child. They're realizing I can do this. Then that limitation that was the conscious repeating process is no longer working anymore because like I'm doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, you can do it with your own too if you want. But not before you were able to agree that you could believe in that. If you don't believe it, then you can't have it. And it's belief. And it's interesting because there are different sciences, physics, chemistry, biology, psychology, blah, blah, blah. Quantum physics, most people have no understanding
I
what the
love
hell
quantum. It's so interesting. Yeah.
But the most important part about quantum physics is it's the most valid science on the planet. It's the one that's been tested the most and affirmed to be the truest in the principles of quantum physics. So if you're going to argue about the quality of a science, quantum physics is the last one because it's been the most truthful. And
Mm-hmm.
I go, so what the heck does that have to do with all of this? And the answer is from day one, 1927. The first quantum physicists like Max Planck and Heisenberg and Einstein and all these people, they recognized the most important fact of quantum physics. Consciousness is creating our life experience. That is the primary principle of the most valid science on this planet. And people just haven't understood. And it's almost 100 years old, and it's just now coming into reality. Consciousness, your thoughts, they're not just byproducts of a machine, they're manifesting the character of this machine. And if you
Mm-hmm.
understand that and recognize, well, where are your thoughts coming from? Are they coming from the creative side or are they coming from the program side? Makes all the difference in the world. Because if you don't have a good program and you run a life from that program, then by definition, you've already traded a good life away. You already put bad programs in there that manifest whatever that bad program is. Cancer runs in families, not because of the gene,
Mm-hmm.
because they
Right.
found that adopted children, those adopted into a family where cancer is running in that family, the adopted child will get the same family cancer as the natural siblings with the same probability. And it's like, well, but the adopted child came from totally different genetics. I go,
Right.
that was the
Yeah.
it's not from genetics, it's from programming. So it's really a point where we have to wake up and say, are you living the life that you want?
Mm-hmm.
Or or is the program interfering? And then I say, well, what's the program? And so just to give people an insight right away, it's simple as this. The programming occurs during the first 7 years. That's when the brain is operating in theta hypnosis, downloading behavior by copying. Okay. And I go, yeah, so this behavior that is downloaded is fundamental to the character of life. Okay. And that 95% of our life coming from this program. Okay. And I say, yeah, but what's the program? I was, what program did you get when you were, it was actually even before you were born, you were being programmed.
Mm-hmm.
A child that, if the mother plays the same music near her abdominal wall and plays the same music, when that child is born, when that child hears that music, it already knows that music.
Yeah.
Or the father's voice, if the
Yep.
father is talking to the fetus,
Mm-hmm.
and then the baby born, the baby already memorized that's the father's voice. That knows that one already. Okay. So it started learning, and it was learning from 0 to 1. So I say, Michelle, so hey, what basic program did you learn when you were 0? You go, I don't know. I wasn't there. I go, okay, well, how about from 1 to 2? No, but don't really remember those either. Okay. As you get older, you might start to remember some glitches of replay things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But what's the point? Your fundamental programs are downloaded and you have no consciousness of what they are.
Mm-hmm.
You weren't aware when the program went in. So that leaves a problem. What the hell's my program? And then all of a sudden I resolve the problem. How? 95% of your life comes from the program. The relevance is profoundly simple. Your life is a printout of your program. So you want to know what your program is? Look at your life and divide it simply in this regard. The things that you like that come into your life, they didn't get there by accident. They got there because you have a program to acknowledge those things. But this is the one wake up call, but the big wake up. The things that you want and desire and you're not getting there, and you're going to work harder, put more effort into it. You know, I'm going to sweat over it. I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to make it happen. I'm working hard. Stop. Why are you working so hard? Simple answer. The programs that you were downloaded with do not support that outcome. So you're trying to use the 5% operating conscious mind, creative wishes, to override the 95% program that doesn't support those wishes.
Right.
That's called struggle. And all of a sudden you start to realize, why am I having a hard time finding love? Your program doesn't support. Why do I have a hard time finding the job that really, I deserve and should, I should be doing well in? Your program doesn't support. You heard, you don't deserve that possibly a number of times when you were a kid. And the function of the brain is to take that program and make it real. So if you have positive programs, the function of the brain is to make that real. And if you have negative programs, it makes that one real. It doesn't decide what the character of the program is. Its job is to manifest behavior that is in harmony with the program. And if it's a bad program, it's going to make behavior to manifest a bad thing, because that's what the program was. And all the stuff we've been talking about, Michelle, comes down to recognizing the most important part, and that is simply this. This is not an accident. Your life is not an accident. There's creation involved. But if you're not creating what you want, we have to stop looking outside and saying, fix those things. We have to start to go inside and say, my program doesn't support this. I need to, to change my program, because it's my program that I'm manifesting. And all of a sudden I say, well, why is this relevant? I go, my God, that's empowerment. You have an opportunity to rewrite programs. You could put in a program you want. I go, well, then what happens if I put in a program I want? I say, then whether you're thinking or you're unconscious, you're still going to go toward that whatever you wanted. The subconscious is going to take you to wherever the program says. So why not put programs in of your wishes and desires? Turn those into programs. I go, why? Because if you turn a wish into a program or a desire into a program, then 95% of the day, the function of the mind is to manifest that wish and that desire without you even thinking about it. It's automatic.
Effortless.
Well, yeah. But if you don't do that, it's also effortless to go down the tubes at the same time. The programs are not that good. Effortless.
It's true. And I remember you mentioning in a documentary about how The Matrix isn't a movie. It's actually a documentary.
Yeah, that's the cool part. And the core part, because basically the movie said everyone is programmed. I go, yeah, that is a fact. That's not a fiction. That's a fact. You get programmed for 7 years. But the interesting part about the concept of the Matrix is that if you take this red pill, you can get out of the program. And they didn't illustrate it the way I would illustrate it, because the way I illustrate it is the same story. I said it's a real Matrix is real. The red pill, the example is falling in love, which we talked about. Because when you start falling in love, you stop playing the program. That's what the red pill was. Stop playing the program. And when you fall in love and experience the honeymoon, I say that's a world that you are creating without a program that you came with. That's a world based on your wishes and your desires. And all of a sudden it says, yeah, but in the honeymoon, I created heaven on earth. I go, well, that's there every day if you don't play the program or rewrite the program.
Which is why gratitude is so powerful.
Yeah, because you're recognizing what you want. And the more you take that picture and you're repeating that picture in your mind, it's repetition. That's how you get a habit. And repeating that. And so the more you repeat very positive things, the repetition of that will lead to a program to manifest those positive things. That's how you make a program, repetition. In the first 7 years, you did it with hypnosis. Okay. But after age 7, you still learn a lot of things, driving a car, playing an instrument, whatever job you can do without thinking about. You learn those things. I say, yeah, but you learn them by repetition.
Right.
And if you want to change your life, one of the ways is to create a new pattern and
Mm-hmm.
start living it just like an exercise program. I will now do this every day, blah,
Mm-hmm.
blah, 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 blah. And it's really important. But interesting enough, because a lot of people think, well, that's time for the sticky notes, put
Right.
them all over. And I go, I'd like to offer that that doesn't really work very well. That a sticky note is more like a suggestion.
Mm-hmm.
Occasionally you pass by the sticky note and go, oh yeah, yeah, that's a good point. And then you move on. And I go, that's a suggestion would be nice. You want to make it real, you actually have to manifest a habituation of something.
Mm-hmm.
The one that I get some humor out of is fake it till you make it approach. And that's the old story. Well, if you're not happy, then just all day long, in between, just whenever it comes in your mind, just say, I am happy. I am
Mm-hmm.
happy. And it's like right in the middle of all that misery, you're going, I am happy. I'm happy. I said, why is it relevant? Because habituation, the repetition of that leads to a program. And one
Mm-hmm.
day you wake up and you don't have to say, I am happy, because now the program automatically will keep you in that place. And I say, how'd you get it? After age 7, habituation, repetition, practice, repeat it over and over. What is it you want? You got to repeat it. If you don't repeat it, you're just going to automatically sink back into the pre-existing program, which is you can't just say, I'm going to ignore a program. It's not your consciousness that activates the program.
Right.
So you don't have a choice. The only way to handle programs that is negative is put in a program that supersedes it, that is better. So the
Right.
same signal coming in, instead of sending you in a negative way, the same signal coming in the new program sends you in a positive way. And all of
Mm-hmm.
a sudden it's like, oh, then you're not going backwards, you're going forwards.
Mm-hmm. So I am fertile.
Well, the whole idea is from a guy who's old now.
Mm-hmm.
My parents, of course, I downloaded their relationship behaviors, and for 40 years, unconsciously, like Bill, playing those relationship behaviors led to what? No relationships, because they were not very good from the start. And then there was a part that said, well, wait, these are programs, change these programs. I had to change the program. And the biggest one I had to change, and I think it applies to, from my experience, about 80 to 90% of all people. And I say that based on this, is that I've worked in belief change programs, modification programs. And one of the things that the test thing, a test for a belief, one of the first ones is the test is, I love myself.
Mm-hmm.
80 to 90% of people will not test positive for that.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is very simple. Parents acting like coaches, thinking if they criticize the child's gonna make a better response. And I go, if a child's under 7, they're not making a response, they're just downloading.
Right.
Good enough, not smart enough, not deserving, not beautiful, not this. I go, a child under 7, that's a program, baby. That's not that's just downloaded. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's unfortunate, because most parents think that by criticizing the child, that they're actually encouraging that child to do better.
Mm-hmm.
I say criticism requires consciousness to understand the meaning of the criticism. That happens after 7.
Mm-hmm.
Before 7, I'm just recording, not deserving, not pretty enough. And I go, parents don't know that. People like us grow up without knowing that was the program that went in, a criticism. And I go, why is it relevant? It becomes self-criticism.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not deserving. I'm not smart enough.
Mm-hmm.
What's the function of the mind? Take the program and manifest a reality, so that, yeah, just what I thought would happen happened. Hey, what a coincidence. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, and I say, so why is it relevant? So if you get programmed with self-critical assessments, not good enough, smart enough, whatever, then 95% of the day, your behavior is going to justify that program.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll take you away from anything you want, because if you can't love yourself, no one else can love you.
So
Think
how
about
do
it.
you suggest for people. I mean, from what I'm hearing, is in order to really see the program, look at your life, basically, because that's
100%.
a reflection. That's like the best way to see it, because it's harder for people to see themselves because they're in their, in their own minds. So see how your life is going, and that'll reflect to you where your state is, what's not working for you. And then
That's the
based on
nature of
that,
creativity.
create consciousness or presence. You could do that with meditation or something that brings you to this moment where you're actually conscious, and
Yes.
also be in a state of love.
Profoundly important. And you have to be able, with all truth and honesty, to look in the mirror someday and go, I love you. You're a great person. You're this, you're wonderful, you're that. Because if you look in the mirror and go, yeah, but you know what about you? And I go, oh, what are you seeing? And the idea is that we really have to be able to honestly go, I am happy with who I am. In fact, that's how I started a book. My book's Biology of Belief. I started off with, before this awareness,
Great
is
book, by the way.
thank you. And it came from somewhere else and came in and then out. And so,
Yeah.
but I remember starting off saying in the very beginning, if you had asked me years ago, who do I want to be? I would have thought of a list of 1 million people before I would say myself.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
Uh,
that's true. A lot of people would say that.
well, that was the point, because when I started to learn, wait, I'm creating this, then I started to say, well, as a creator, let's do a better job of this creation, and manifest a better situation, to the extent that if you ask me today, who do you want to be? I go, I'm real happy who I am. I'm real happy. Why? Programs I've changed them, the
Yeah.
limitation programs, to live what? Well, with my partner Margaret and I, it's over 20 years of living a honeymoon. Why? Because when the negative programs started to show back up after the initial part, we both knew that, hey, those were programs. That's not who we are. Instead of leading to arguments, which it does in a conventional world, because Bill said that, didn't see it, and his partner heard it, and like that, that leads to arguments and friction.
Yeah.
But what if both people knew that the negative behavior that just showed up was not wanted by anybody, including the person who just did it? And you start to recognize, you say, did you realize that? No, you didn't realize you were saying. What were you saying? Stop for a second. You were disempowering yourself. I go, oh, that gives me a chance to change the program. But if you come out and say, oh, that was the stupidest thing you ever said, or, and I get mad, then I'm not changing anything. So Margaret and I, early on the game, started to realize the most important part is those things that were not in love, were programs that were not worthy of keeping. But instead of arguing and fighting over the consequence of playing a program, just stopping and saying, you know what, this is a bad program. I don't want this program. Let me change it. And then by adjusting and changing, there's a point where if those negative ones disappear, then guess what? Well, then you're back to the honeymoon 24/7, 365. Why?
Yeah.
Because even if I start thinking, whatever is coming out is not going to be a sabotaging behavior. It'll be a behavior that will enhance wherever I'm at. And it doesn't even take any effort if you think about it, because your life is now running 95% of the time, directing you without you involved, even though you were involved. It was
Right.
running automatically. Yeah. But what if you ran it with great programs? And it goes like, well, the ancient mystics, man, they knew that all the time. That's not new. That was before we became so smart and forgot that that's how it
Yeah.
works.
And what I think about is there's a heart uterus connection. There's a vessel that actually in Chinese medicine runs and connects the heart to the uterus, and the heart's role is to open the uterus and receive life. And it's an amazing thing because oxytocin increases around ovulation. That's the time where we're more primed to make babies and connect. And the first thing that happens when you're stressed out is you don't really feel that ability to surrender in that moment that you're connecting and that intimacy. And so it's kind of like that cycle that we're talking about again. But if we really do connect to that part of us, it's more enjoyable and it gives us what we want.
Well, that's exactly what the whole point was. What I learned from the cells, for example, is there's two states. A cell is either in growth or a cell is in protection, but it can't be in both at the same time. I say, why? I say, well, if there's something out there that offers growth, a stimulus, you go to the stimulus, you go to growth, and you go with your arms open. Why? Assimilation. If I want to take something in, I got to be open to take it in.
Yeah.
Growth, love, open, bring it to me. Okay. But if I see a threat out there, I don't go to the stimulus, I go away from it. That's the opposite direction. And
Right.
I don't stay open because if it's a threat, I cover myself in protection. So I say, what's the point? Growth, go to a stimulus, be open. Protection, go away from a stimulus and be closed. You can't be open and closed at the same time. You can't go to a stimulus and away from it at the same time. So what's the point? We're in an either or situation. And the more you need to protect yourself, by definition, the more you have closed yourself down. And protection is walling yourself off from the outside. And this is where all the problems come from, because by definition, you have to be open to take things in. Food, nourishment, love. If you want it in, you have to be open. And yet, if you're in fear, you close it down. And you can't live in fear. Fear will kill you. Why? It shut down the mechanisms, the stress hormones in the body. The very simple point is this: stress is a good thing when necessary.
Right.
If a saber-toothed tiger is chasing you, you damn well want to be able to have a protection response. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
And I say, so, and here comes an interesting connection. Protection means what? Running away or fighting. I go, oh, which organ systems do I use for fighting? Pancreas? No, arms and legs. So why is that relevant? Now, there's a reason. If I'm in stress, I need to fuel those guys, the arms and legs. I need to give them the energy. If I'm running from that tiger, I need to have the energy. So I say, blood carries the energy.
Right.
So when stress hormones are released into the body, they shut off any function that is using energy, but is not necessary to escape the tiger. So one of them is growth. Yeah. If I'm running from the tiger, I don't need to start using my energy to grow. I want that energy to run away from the tiger. So stress hormones shut off growth and maintenance of the body while you're running from that tiger to give more energy to running away. The immune system uses tremendous amount of energy. So when people are sick, sometimes they have so little energy, they can't get out of bed. The immune system. So I say, if you're being chased by a tiger and you've got a bacterial infection, how do you want to split the energy on that? And the idea is, hell with the bacterial infection. The tiger catches me, I don't have a problem anymore.
Right.
So stress hormones shut off the immune system. Okay. So all of a sudden, I'm going to say right away, then the two most important things to recognize with stress is, number one, you stop taking care of the body while you're in stress to use the energy to run away, and you repress the immune system so you can use that energy to run away. And I say, in the day of saber-toothed tiger, you only use that damn response 10, 15 minutes. If you escape the tiger, then no more threat. And then you're back to growing again. But our world today doesn't offer that. Our world offers 24/7 stress.
Yeah.
Go,
The
so
news, you're talking about the immune system. We're in this pandemic and we're told we're given fear. So what does that do to our immune system?
that's what made it worse, because when people became afraid, the fear shut down the system, because stress hormones do that. That's a fact of science. In fact, when doctors want to transplant an organ from person A into person B, remember, that's a foreign organ for B, that the immune system in B, you put a foreign organ in there and the immune system will say, that's not us, man, and try to eliminate it. Okay.
Yeah.
I say, well, what do doctors do to facilitate the transplant setting in? They give the patients stress hormones. And as a result, their immune system does not fight off the foreign organ. Okay. I guess, so why is that relevant? I said, well, if you just get your own form of stress hormones from watching the TV, you've already shut off you're shutting off your system from responding it to the interior issues such as COVID.
Right. And then there was one other point I wanted to make because a friend of mine, Monica Bivas, she mentioned that she interviewed you. I don't know if you remember a couple of years ago. She's a fertility coach and IVF coach. And
Yeah.
she said that you said something that was really profound, that pain is not something that we really have much of a choice on, but suffering is. We do have a choice.
Yeah, suffering is squeezing out those bad juices from your brain chronically. With the idea is, okay, I've experienced this. Do I need to carry this all the way with me all the time? And it depends on your programming, and it brings to mind a story, if I get it right, is two monks are walking along and they come to a little river thing, and there's a woman all dressed up in a bride's outfit and everything, and she's crying because she can't get across the river without getting all of her bride stuff all messed up. So the monks are not allowed to touch women. One of the monks picks her up and carries her across and drops her off on the other side. And then the two monks continue walking. And about an hour later, the other monk says to him, he says, that was wrong to pick up that woman back there and all that. And the monk who picked up the woman said, "You're still thinking about that? That's been an hour. I dropped her off an hour ago." And the idea was the other guy was carrying this chronic picture for a whole time. When the other monk said, "I let go of that. That was a long time ago." And that's the difference between pain and suffering. Pain is, we got to deal with this right now. But suffering is, you keep it in the forefront. Like that guy walking down thinking about, he picked up a woman. He suffered the whole hour thinking about that guy doing it. It's like, that was a choice.
Right. Right.
And that's a real important part.
And that's a programming again, that we're not conscious of it. We sometimes think that we have no choice but to suffer, but when we really look back, we really do have a choice. It's something that we can choose once we work out the program.
That's the whole idea, and another interesting one, because it's about birth and fertility and all that. And as a guy, I've seen, I don't know how many movies with women giving birth. And it's like the end of the world, screaming, death, pain, and all this kind of stuff. I'm going, this is a program.
It is a program. It is a program.
It is a program.
That's why there's hypnobirthing and lots of women. And I've done it with my second one. My first one, she was sunny side up, so it was difficult because of the positioning. But it's all about letting go and not fighting. It's really that resistance that causes the pain.
Yeah, and expecting it before it happens, because if you've seen this your whole life, and every time they show a woman giving birth and you get the same program, there's a learning period by just sitting there observing this. It's like, well,
absolutely,
that's going to hurt. That's going to hurt. Every time I've seen it, everybody, I'm going to hurt because everyone does. It's
amazing.
Consciousness, time to change.
So powerful.
Yeah.
It really is. And I think that's really what it is when you were saying about how, we perceive ourselves as victims. I think it's because we just don't realize how much power we have. We don't realize how powerful we are. Because
the programs in the beginning were all disempowering programs. You can't do this. You can't do that. Who do you think you are? And at some point you buy it and you say, I'm just a victim. And I go, well, now you're in trouble. That's a belief system.
Totally. Oh my God. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing this. I knew this was going to be amazing. And I feel like I got lucky to learn so much throughout this hour. So for people who want to find you, want to read your books, how can they find you?
BruceLipton.com. Simple. BruceLipton.com. Lots of wonderful information, freely downloadable, lots of articles, videos, audios, all kinds of stuff on different topics, and all of this from the new biology. And so it's a great resource.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your empowering information. I feel empowered and I'm excited and renewed hope, for the listeners. So thank you so much for sharing everything that you shared today.
I appreciate that. And again, I also appreciate our audience because we all have this opportunity to take power. And until we take our power back, then by definition, we left ourselves open as victims.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not. We're
We're not.
creators. So I look forward to a better creation.
Ah, thank you.
Thank you so much for the invitation. And thank you, Michelle. And thank you again, all those people watching this program. I appreciate it.
So that concludes today's episode. You can find all of the links mentioned on the episode notes. If you're enjoying these episodes, please take a moment to share and leave a review. Reviews mean everything to podcasters, and I really enjoy hearing from my listeners. You can also find me on my website at www.thewholesomelotus.com or email me at info@thewholesomelotus.com. I love hearing from my listeners. If you're interested and want updates as well as a free ebook on my top 10 fertility boosting habits, you can visit my fertility page on www.thewholesomelotus.com. I thank you so much for listening in and hope that you have a beautiful day.